Gaming in India is seen as one of the fastest growing sectors. According to an Ernst & Young report, All India Gaming Federation report, in fact, the online gaming sector in India is estimated to cross $2 billion by 2023. From entertainment to earning, the sector, many believe, can create jobs over the long term. But what are the challenges that this space faces, especially when it comes to policy, battling negative perceptions to keep up the growth momentum? And what are the opportunities stakeholders must seize? All this and more in this Gametech panel at ET Soonicorns Summit. I'm Miloni Bhatt, and joining me are founders of two gaming platforms, Anirudh Pandita, founder Loco. Welcome, Anirudh.
Good to be here, Miloni. Thanks for having me.
And we have Paavan Nanda, co-founder Winzo. Good to have you, Paavan.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Miloni.
We also have with us Deependra Singh, head of Gametech Business Development, AWS, across Asia Pacific and Japan. Deependra, thanks for your time.
Pleasure is mine, Miloni. Thank you.
All right. This first question is for all of you. Anirudh, if you can begin. Between 2020 and 2021, the number of online gamers grew from 360 to 390 million. Reports also say that India could become the world's largest gaming hub. Can you tell us what's powering India's position, apart from, say, cheaper smartphones and better connectivity? And linked to that is the other question, that what does the future look like to you, as we move from mobile, console sets, AR, VR?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's often overlooked about gaming in general is that gaming is the cheapest form of entertainment, right? When you come to a value-conscious country like India, a Netflix subscription bundle or a Amazon Prime bundle is actually much more expensive than a game like a BGMI or a Free Fire Max or New State, or even hyper-casual games that exist today on the platform, right? On, whether you get them through APKs or whether you get them through the Play Store. So for someone sitting in a small town who may not even have a mall, may not have playgrounds, these games become sort of their outlet into the world. And especially these larger games, which are not only games, but social networks in and of themselves, they become like virtual hangout spaces. And so, when I was a kid, I learned a lot about the world through watching sport and watching Discovery Channel, etc. And people used to tell me, oh, don't watch television, but it was my window to the world. And today, I think that is happening through games, and I play a lot of games. My phone is next to me, my console is next to me. The kind of people you meet, especially on the mobile-based gaming, which is predominantly what India is a mobile gaming country. It's phenomenal. I've met people from Nagaland, from Kashmir, from Kerala. You could go to the remotest parts of the country and you could find them there. And of course, the urban parts of the country already have gaming. So I think it's a cheapest form of entertainment. It is the most immersive form of entertainment. And so I think there is no question which way we are headed in terms of the entertainment phenomenon, that interactive entertainment is the way forward. And then in terms of what is causing this is that once obviously cheaper internet was available, you could get better and better sort of immersive experiences on your phone. And once you try that, there's no looking back on that. And so I think when you look, 3 years in front, you don't need to go 5 years in front. I think you're going to have, this word gamer, like, are you a gamer, is going to be as, it's like asking someone whether you watch a show. Like, everybody watches some show or video, So it's going to be more about what kind of gamer are you? Do you like playing strategy games, or do you like playing, more first-person shooters or role-playing games, right? So I think that's been interesting. And on Loco, which is India's largest and leading game streaming platform, we're seeing that essentially, FPS games are doing very well. We're seeing Even GTA 5, which is actually a desktop, console-based game, that's also doing really well. That's a more a role-playing open world game. So I think India is also opening up its taste. I think hyper-casual games have been doing well for a while. This is now adding a new layer to it, and I'm sure the other panelists will tell you more about how people, are using it as a career and really furthering their own, ambitions, both as creators as well as, users.
Right. Paavan, that means it's over to you.
Yeah, I think Anirudh very beautifully summed up the entire landscape here. And what's important to understand is, while of course, smartphones is great, and cheaper hardware, cheaper internet is great, but yeah, there is a behavioral shift in terms of getting into more immersive experiences, right? And games, rightly so, provide them. There's another important aspect, which is the payments infra, right? So if you see earlier, the entire the hurdle of securing credit cards or debit cards, or only then making payments. Now it's very, very easy, very flexible. In fact, I would say the entire content generation, I would say company, all those business models are kind of passe. Now people are very focused on providing as much flexibility, independence to the consumers, right? Indian consumers are very, as much as they're value conscious, they're also very freedom loving. So instead of bucketing them, giving them certain set SKU, certain set subscriptions, they are more than happy to get into on-the-go kind of payment modes. For example, here at Winzo, Winzo we consider ourselves India's largest social gaming platform. We have actually leveraged the entire microtransaction model to be able to build a very large ecosystem for ourselves, right? Where people actually add up as low as $10. They play a couple of games, paying entry fee as small as ₹2. Now, if you see somebody spending actually playing a 10-minute game by just paying ₹2, I'm sure you must be reminded of, when we were kids, we used to go to these gaming parlors, we used to buy these coins and tokens and play Tekken and Mustafa and all those games. So I think literally, the today's gaming revolution is actually replicating those habits through smartphones and through this entire massive UPI payment infra that's causing all these tailwinds. Of course, COVID has really gone ahead and expedited all of it, as you can see. In terms of numbers, I feel from 300 to 390 or whatever, I think these numbers are still very shallow. The idea is to touch roughly 600 million gamers in next 2.5 to 3 years. And that's very, very achievable. The rate at which we are growing. I mean, at Winzo, we have never seen a single month of degrowth, right? People tell us that, hey, you must have got a very strong push from COVID, but that's not true. We were always growing like more than 10-15% month on month, tripling, growing 4x, 5x every year on year. By and large, I think that's probably the case with most good products out there in the Indian market, because the macros are so favorable.
All right. Deependra, you have this sort of a 360 view, what's your input here?
Yeah, I agree with what Anirudh and Paavan said. I'll just add on to it. So what we have seen is that there is some kind of game for everyone in today's day and age. So earlier, when we were growing up, when I was growing up, you had games which had primarily to be played on PC and console. They were strategy games, they were first-person shooter games, and the market was sort of limited to a certain set of gamer, which was a very enthusiastic gamer. Today, as the panelists have already spoken about, games have become a mainstream form of entertainment. Now, whether you want to play a Ludo or a Candy Crush or a first-person shooter or a strategy game, the choices are wide and huge and available to you. And some of those innovations are coming from India and phenomenal games, right? The other thing that we are seeing is that games have also become a place for people to interact socially. Now traveling is not always possible, but how do you interact? You interact either on Facebook or some chat medium or some other online hangout. But now you can interact with your friends, even with your family, on games, and there's a common interest. So just saying hi and having a conversation is one thing, but when you have something common to do, I think that brings people even closer together. So those are the two drivers, which of course supported by everything that is there from a macroeconomic perspective, cheaper mobile phones, cheaper data rate. But those two drivers, I think, are bringing a lot of people into the foray. And as Paavan said, these numbers are pretty small today, but we are expecting 600 million, even larger number of gamers to come into the foray, and that is primarily driven by these two things, in my opinion. And as per a recent report, the gaming industry is expected to hit $7 billion in the next 4 years. That's massive, and it is the fastest growing industry. one of the fastest growing for sure, but I think it is the fastest growing industry. And these are the reasons that people are saying that, hey, let's interact, let's play. There's something for everyone. In terms of your other question on PC, console, and VR, I think PC and console have a limitation in terms of their reach because of the affordability. But what we are seeing is that mobile games which are coming out these days, they're of as high quality as the PC or console game. And now with cloud gaming, on the anvil and coming very soon, supported by 5G infrastructure rollout, you will be able to play PC and console games even on your mobile through a streaming platform. And that will just democratize the entire set of games available to everyone. And mobile is the predominant and will remain the predominant form of consumption of games in India.
I'm very curious to know if you could give me a breakdown of gender when it comes to gaming, men versus women. Are you seeing a lot of interest from women consumers in you?
There is. I don't have the number, but what we are seeing is an increasing number of women are coming into the gaming forum and they are playing games. There are some companies which are creating games especially for women. There are some companies in the US, which actually make games which are focused completely on women. Without naming any customer, we recently met a customer who is making games only for women, predominantly for Indian women and for US women, and the type of the game is slightly different. So yes, women play the regular games, but there is an increasing awareness that we should bring more girls into games. At AWS, we also have a thesis of girls into games that, how can we bring more women into the gaming ecosystem and be more diverse and inclusive. So I think there's an increasing focus on not just offering the same set of games to women, but also developing games specifically for women.
Right. But, maybe Paavan or Anirudh could answer this question. What is the offtake when it comes to women?
It's a fairly strong offtake. I mean, to be very honest, earlier, a couple of years back, when we started off Winzo, which was 2018, late 2017, we saw the India internet population in itself, right? You do run campaigns on Facebook and you can see how many or what percent of gender can you target. And you could see that like roughly 78-22, like 78% male are available on Facebook to be targeted, 22% female. But if you see now, I think, especially if you talk about Winzo, we have close to 35% women actually participating, which is I think increasing year over year. And like Deependra mentioned, it's really about the quality of content that you bring in, right? And the more relevant content, and by just women, right? Even if you see the dissection across ages, I mean, for all of us, we feel that probably gaming is a very, very young thing to do. People from 18 to 24 or 24 to 35 are the ones who are engaging in it. But like we have, I would say, a very healthy percentage of users on Winzo who are 45 years and above. So I think it's just that gaming as a mode of entertainment is penetrating in our society across different demographics, right?
Gender, it's no longer niche.
Be it age, and also language. I mean, we are a vernacular product. We are available in 12 different languages. We again see a very massive offtake outside English, and happy to cover that later in the chat.
Right. Anirudh, maybe you could start. The gaming industry, of course, as has been laid out, is being recognized as an important pillar of the economy. And how do you see the industry supporting job growth?
I think there's a tremendous number of jobs that are going to be created in the gaming industry, right? I think when we think about India, we always just talk about users. I think there's the fact that India is also a hub for developers. We have a lot of development talent. And yes, there are certain specialties in game development, maybe game design, etc., that still need to, be developed. But there's a lot of talent in India already. And I think you can see that in the kind of initiatives that are happening, different games that are in development in India today. But it's not just gaming, right? The gaming value chain, from the publisher all the way to the end user, there are many different jobs that are being created today, right? If you look at people on Loco who are streaming today, right? Competitive gamers, entertainers, they have huge incomes and they're getting that money from advertisers because they're drawing really big audiences who are interested in watching their content. So they're new age content creators. On the other hand, there are competitive gamers who are going out there winning medals for India and the Commonwealth. We had the first Indian team that qualified ever for the FIFA Nations Cup, right? We've never sent a soccer or football team to the FIFA World Cup, but we've done it in esports. We had representation at the PMWI now in Riyadh. So, we have people making money through prize money and skill as well. Then you go down the chain to kind of streaming platforms where you have people who are working in our development team, who are working on the marketing side, on the content creation side. So there's a huge number of people there. And then in the publisher side itself, there's huge number of jobs that will be created when we create games both for India and for the world, right? When you look at a game like Ludo King, which is done extremely well in India, you see many other studios like this who are now addressing the opportunity that India offers. I think a lot of studio efforts were primarily not focused on India earlier because before 2019 nobody really thought that a game would get to the scale that a PUBG Mobile or a Free Fire did in India, where there were 100 million plus MAUs in India, right? That's huge number. So and they're also making revenue, right? A lot of these companies were doing, according to press, is doing over $100 million of revenue in India. So it shows you that there is both from a revenue point of view as well as a user point of view, the ability to create a market. And then the sort of support forces have also shown up, right? I think multiple companies have created gaming funds. One of our investors, Lumika, is India's first gaming fund. They've put in money into the ecosystem. Crafton, one of our investors, has put money into the ecosystem. Makers Fund, which has funded both Loco as well as Winzo. They've funded a bunch of companies continue to look at assets. So I think that awareness around gaming from an investment point has come in. Deependra and I have worked together on multiple initiatives. With Amazon has supported, various awareness building initiatives. So I think the industry is really coming together, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it, which is that when people finally sat at home, they saw what their kids were doing, right? And I think whether they were entertainment executives or whether they were marketing guys or investors, they saw that that's where the young people were spending majority of their time. To give you a sense, anyone who's watching live streams on Loco today spends 50 minutes plus on the platform daily, right? So
50,
essentially 50, right? And these are 15-minute plus sessions. So our competitor, you could say, is another platform, but it can often be Netflix, right? Not only just a gaming platform. It's just that's how the young people want to spend their time. They're just watching that instead of watching television or watching some other platform. So the point is that the industry awareness went up, and because of that, you're seeing a bigger support. And now I'm really happy that the government is actually recognized that. Mr. Modi has talked about it openly, and we've created the AVGC committee has been formed. And I happen to know some of the people there. I think they're very forward looking in the way they think. So I think you could see some good support coming from the government side as well.
Right. Paavan, I want to talk about monetization. The gaming space right now is being dominated by two monetization models, right? Free to play and subscription based. What is the kind of shift that we see in gaming medium, and as new technologies emerge, how do you see these models evolving?
Yeah, I think monetization, to be very honest, is one of the most critical things to be solved for any industry to unlock its true potential, right? And if you see last 20 years, I would say pre-Geo era, from 2000 all the way up to 2017, 2018, one of the reasons that really held back gaming as a sector was because we were only relying on in-app purchases or advertisement-related revenues, right? And to be very honest, I think spending on in-app purchases or spending on in-game items, I mean, is been considered a luxury. Like if you see a value-driven mindset, spending on games was touted to be socially conditioned as a luxurious thing to do, right? Like there used to be that one friend in the friend circle used to be famous that this guy actually spends a lot of money on games,
Or
so,
has the money to spend on games.
Or has the money to spend on games, exactly, right? But if you see how then value has really unlocked, right, post 2018, now there are very different models of monetization. If you see, for example, even in in-app purchases, right, payments has totally solved for it. Some of the other games like BGMI or Free Fire, as per the press, have actually clocked more than $100 million. There are a lot of other games as well who are doing those kind of numbers. If you see Winzo, right, we were of the opinion that if we can sort of provide some kind of a reward or the other side of participation, then the excitement, then the ability to pay, then the interest in paying payments is going to grow multifold, right? And that's exactly what we did. We basically added a layer of reward-based competition where people can actually just load their money in the wallet and then they can go about entering a chess tournament. For example, you and I play a game of chess or carom, pay $10 each, and the winner will take 18 rupees, right? Now, this kind of model has really gone ahead and exploded. We ourselves can tout to have more than 1 crore paid users, right, in the lifetime that we've acquired. And I'm very sure that the install to deposit conversion or install to monetization conversions are, I would say, multifold versus, let's say, an install to purchase conversion in case of in-app purchase related models, right? There are, of course, some other traditional RNG based formats. For example, if you see like a poker or a rummy or a fantasy, those kind of models have already been, shown and demonstrated strong profitable growth. They have been around for last 10 years. But I think microtransaction led monetization has really helped gaming enter and monetize. I would say one of the toughest audience to monetize, right? If you see music, if you see movies, there's so many content platforms that have tried to monetize effectively in tier 2, tier 5 cities in India. Because of course everybody can see the users. If you see some of these global players, they say that we get our revenues from the west, but we get our users from the east, right? And especially India are considered to be a DAO factory, Mao factory, whatnot. But essentially, with the help of such microtransaction-led monetizations, at least in gaming, we've been able to very, very successfully monetize those users, and they're generating very healthy, monthly numbers. For example, like we typically earn roughly 200 to 250 rupees per person per month, which is, I would say, fairly effective, right? I mean, it's still cheaper than a Netflix subscription or a Hotstar subscription, but then it derives, or delivers close to 30 hours of entertainment in a month, which is, one of the cheapest forms of entertainment.
All right.
And yeah, just to sort of finish, and then of course there is the whole creator-led economy that's getting created, right? Where there are game streamers who are actually generating content, streaming content. We have like a very strong program called Winzo Superstar, to which we partner with a lot of these game streamers who stream content. And now I would say, for example, for Winzo, we haven't really relied on a Facebook or a Google to distribute our product. Why make those companies rich? We've actually gone ahead, through this route where we have closely engaged with these content creators to generate content about Winzo, deliver Winzo, distribute Winzo, and pass on all our marketing budgets directly to these content creators. So there are, I think, some really interesting ways things are getting monetized in gaming.
All right. Anirudh, if you can come in, I wanted to speak on the microtransaction point that Paavan raised, which allows gamers and spectators to make small game purchases. Would you say that it's kind of detrimental to the game and to its experience? It kind of detracts from the overall experience and it skews the field in favor of those who can shell out a lot of money, to progress in the game. What is your view, Anirudh?
I actually think it's hugely beneficial. Honestly, like the game design is in the game publisher's hand and in the game studio's hand, right? They can create. If you look at a game like BGMI, PUBG Mobile, it was not pay to win. So you could pay to, buy skins, you could pay to outfit your character, but you cannot pay to win. And there are other games like Free Fire, which had a pay to win mechanic in it. Right now, it depends from game to game how they want to do it. There are games like Clash of Clans where your experience and how much of grind you put into the game really matters. But I think that's a game design option. Without the UPI infrastructure, as Paavan has mentioned, we did not have the ability to make sachet payments easily, right? And I think that's critical when people want to put in 5 rupees, 10 rupees, they couldn't do it because you'd ask for a credit card and you don't have credit card coverage, or to ask you to connect a bank account. It's very difficult to do it. So I think it's unlocked a completely new market and brought them into the mix, which is, I think, very, very important. So I don't think it's detrimental at all. And even on Loco, for example, we built the ability to provide tipping or virtual gifts to streamers, and that's possible because of UPI. If you do not have UPI, the target audience would be too small, and so I don't think that's a bad thing at all, and it gives a completely new dimension to gaming that didn't really exist 4 or 5 years ago.
But Pavan, if you can come in this, this real money gaming has been growing right rapidly, but there's social stigma attached to it, and perhaps makes it challenging at a policy level. Legally, skill-based gamings are not tagged as gambling, but often gambling and gaming are used interchangeably. So what are the challenges that you face because of this? And how do you work to move past the perception? Any sort of policy that would help?
Yeah, I think so by the way, a lot of work is being done in the background to educate the right stakeholders on what exactly is a game of skill and how it is very, very different from, something like a gambling or a casino kind of a business. And I mean, just to give you an example, a chess is very different from something like a roulette, right? And we all understand where games, require more skill versus, it's really just a coin flip or a toss of a dice. I think and to be very honest, we are in a very, very healthy environment in the sense that everybody knows that game of skills are allowed in India. I think what would be helpful is if, let's say, a state actually, most of the states actually either come in with, okay, gambling is illegal and we are either blocking all kinds of real money games, right? But if let's say there is and there is already in the works, right, wherein a state sort of comes in with these are the specific guidelines, of a game as a game of skill, and we are totally okay with, companies adhering to these guidelines, and we, us sort of giving that green light around that. I think those kind of frameworks, yes, those kind of frameworks, if get introduced, and I think, if let's say we get that introduced from one or two states, then I think rest of the states can really follow the suit at that level, right? And I think we are already heading into that direction where a lot of work has been done, or is under the works, both at the center as well as state level. Talking about, or let me put it this way, sharing Winzo's view around the whole real money gaming sector, or, I think one of the words that you also mentioned was probably addiction or the perils of things. We actually very, very strongly believe that, you need to put special measures and controls to keep a check on when a person is actually probably crossing any kind of limits, right? And that's why we are following a very microtransaction-led approach. We have like millions of users, and on an average, a person only spends 200 to 50 rupees. However, of course, there are formats, there are sort of games, or there are players in the market out there where the game design is such, and I think Anirudh also mentioned, right? Game design is, or game mechanics is really what really defines what the user spending behavior is going to be. There are already products in the market wherein people actually end up losing lakhs, or I would say even more than that kind of number, where large sums of revenues are probably generated by a small set of users. I think there we need to really ensure that proper checks, balances, withdrawal, limits on withdrawals, limits on deposits, and in every kind of exploitation that's happening around. I think, and with the help of data, with the help of ML, with the help of data science, all that is very much possible. And we are a very strong proponent of that. We do it ourselves on our platform. And yeah, I think that's the way to go.
How do you do it, Paavan? In the sense that, when you see that there are users who are spending, fairly large amounts of money, what are the kind of guards that are put in place, to notify, to kind of point out?
Yeah. So there are multiple guardrails. There is, see, we are not I would say a gaming company, we are a data company, to be very honest, because we don't even make games and all, right? We just integrate these games. We are running through our algorithms, and our algorithms always keep we like consume more than, I would say 10,000 data points at any point of time of any particular live player, and whether the person is winning, losing, losing streak, winning streak, depositing too much cash, losing too much cash, and we have measures to also identify the economic levels of those players, and basis that there are limits around the withdrawal limits, deposit limits, limits on the amount of time a person spent, amount of games a person can play, so on and so forth. And I think those kind of measures are also important, right? Because to be very honest, it really hurts nobody. At the end of the day, those few edge cases do not really contribute to the business. 99% of your business still lies within those limits only. So those edge cases are very important to build the sector responsibly, and that's what we do.
Right. I think Anirudh, you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, we're not a real money gaming company, but I have a lot of friends who operate in the sector, and I think, as you just heard from Paavan, I think the most important thing is intent from operators, right? You have operators like him who are being responsible and saying, okay, look, these things are problems. There are bad actors, and we have to put guardrails in place. And I think a bunch of them are doing that. And I think regulators will respond to that because I think we have to also, as a gaming fraternity, understand their concerns, and I think a lot of those concerns are real. And there are negative effects of what can happen if you have an unguarded, completely kind of laissez-faire sort of environment. But I think there are enough and more ways to regulate this from the side of the operators themselves. And I think the good guys are already doing that. And so I think this is not actually such a big problem as it's made out to be.
My next question, Anirudh, if you could give me a sense of the government has proposed that a 28% GST slab be levied on online gaming and at casinos. How do you see this impacting industry, maybe financially, even in terms of perception?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not the finance minister, so my viewpoint on this, I'm usually not a big fan of large taxes. I think it's not a very efficient way of growing an economy. But you respect what they've put out there, and we continue our business with that, right? And the reality is that if there's a financial implication for all the companies involved, we will adhere to whatever law is put out there, but there will be an impact on the consumer as well. So ultimately, every tax, it's not just the companies that get taxed, right? We will, we may raise prices. There may be other implications that come about as a result of the taxes. So I think that's number one. There is no problem in adhering to what the government has said, and I think all of us will stand by it. And of course, there are intricacies in this, right, for various operators. Now, for someone like us at Loco, it has very little impact. But for people who are doing the RMG businesses, there are different. What exactly do you tax? At what point do you bring in the tax? Those have implications on as much as the going concern nature of a certain company. So I think those need to be handled, and I think there is a concerted effort to work with the government on that. But that's it. And this is a classic sort of regulatory mechanism that's brought in, which is let's put in a high tax and then see where we go from there. But I think over time this will decline, because once the understanding of what's happening goes into this, you'll see a better understanding, and state to state also you'll see a difference in the way they actually approach this subject.
Okay, the next one is for all of you. And if you want to take it, of course, when we talk of gaming, we cannot do it now without talking about Web3 and Metagross, right? It's moved from free to play to earn, and the gaming ecosystem is really evolving with ownership and democratization. How do you see gaming evolving, as we move towards Web3? What is the sort of democratization, decentralization that you see coming in, the business models that you see emerging?
Yeah, I think we're in a very interesting phase where we're not just going all guns blazing on Web2, but now we've also got this, Web3, wherein you can actually completely decentralize the entire ecosystem, right? So just for the viewers, one of the key fundamental differences, for somebody to really understand what Web3 can bring is today, if anybody is buying any in-app currency, let's say I'm playing any game like a BGM or a Free Fire, I'm buying a particular article by making an in-app purchase. At the end of the day, that article still belongs to that particular publisher, right? I cannot if I get bored of that game, I stop playing. I cannot ever do anything about that particular game. Or if let's say that game, gets discontinued, I cannot do anything about that article. But with the help of Web3, I can actually own that particular article that I've paid for, and can trade it with anybody else. So now that suddenly creates a very massive economic activity, right? Where there was only single supplier and there were multiple buyers. Now everybody's a buyer and everybody's a seller in the same market. So people can go ahead and work too hard in a particular game to get those assets. There'll be people who will be just interested in buying those assets and straight away jumping few levels. there'll be people who will just be interested, not as much in the game, but just in buying and selling those assets and doing those intraday trading activities. And at the end of the day, for a game publisher as well, the benefit is that now instead of just making money on that single sale, the game developer can actually make monies on each and every transaction. They can probably make $10, $5, from each transaction. So that also ultimately exponentially grows their revenue potential. So with the help of this, now gaming industry, which is anyway considered to be world's largest, it's bigger than movies and music combined. It's a $180 billion industry that we're talking about. It can easily cross $1 trillion in market caps. And I think that's what Web3 can bring in. Of course, when you, with the help of NFTs, you can go ahead and really demonstrate your ownership. You can really I think everything, the entire playbook can be relooked at with the help of Web3, right? Whether it's the content creators economy, whether it's the entire supply chain between a player and a game publisher, whether it's about the way people are playing. For example, Web3 also offers us cross-country liquidity, wherein people from different geographies can actually go ahead and play, and liquidity is something very critical for multiplayer gaming. So I think the future is extremely promising on that front. But it's not something, and nobody should be. I think the real builders are not getting deterred with what's happening in the crypto market, because crypto market is something very, very separate, right? People think that if Bitcoin is crashed or Ethereum is crashed or Web3 is a sham, but these are two very, very different things. Builders are continuing to build things on Web3, and next 3, 4, 5 years are going to be very interesting to see what all things come out of, especially in India. India can probably be the capital and the powerhouse of Web3 in development.
All right, Deependra, what are your views? In fact, I was just going to take off on the point that Paavan mentioned. That when we see the crypto market functioning the way it is, what sort of an impact will it have on the larger gaming market, and the sort of looking forward to how Web3 is going to change the ecosystem? Will it dampen this ecosystem, or will it simply chug along?
I think, as Paavan said, they are two very different things. Cryptocurrencies and Web3 gaming, there are very, very, very few similarities. So, whatever is happening in the crypto market, we're calling it the crypto winter. I think it is probably dampening the spirit of some people who say, oh, crypto is going down, so my Web3 gaming business may not be as exciting. And I'm talking about users who are not as educated, but they are very different things. In Web3, what we are seeing is that ownership has been democratized, right? So you can have NFTs, like, for example, Paavan was mentioning an in-game asset like a sword. Now you can use that sword to play a battle game, and that sword increases in value as you continue to play that game. You can trade it, you can rent it. The ownership belongs to you and not to the publisher. So that's the beauty, democratization, and providing ownership to users who are actually spending time with the game is actually the beauty of Web3. The other thing that we are also seeing is that this is not just limited to games. This is also relevant for sports-based games. So, for example, you can have NFTs based on memorable events from a match, or memorable event from an ICC tournament, which may have happened in the past. And there can be ownership of these NFTs as well, which has been created by some of our customers. And again, number one, you are owning these NFTs, so you can hold them, you can trade them, or you can actually build a gameplay on top of those. Those gameplays could be in form of a game related to sports, trump cards, whatever it is. But as you bring utility on top of these assets, which are NFTs, I think the engagement of players typically goes up. So you have multiple forms or multiple types of people participating in the Web3 gameplay. One could be, a financial investor who wants to invest in NFTs, hold them, trade them. The other is a player who holds NFTs and then uses gameplay on top of it. So Web3 and crypto, very different things, and we are very bullish on Web3 gaming.
So my last set of questions now for all of you. Anirudh, I'd like to start with you. Loco wants to be the platform that brings the Indian gaming community together, which is stacked up against, say, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, when it comes to live stream gaming. How are you managing this? How is it working out?
I mean, we've seen phenomenal growth in the last year, right? If you look at our MAUs and DAUs, we're up almost 10x. Our live watch hours, are up almost 50x year on year. So we're seeing phenomenal growth. And in fact, we just did a tournament which was also televised on Star Sports. We've our viewership has been larger than Star on that, and we got over 100 million views in that month just on the platform. And so the numbers we're seeing are bigger than what you would see on Wimbledon, what you're seeing on Formula One, what you're seeing on Premier League. So apart from Indian cricket, and in particular Indian men's cricket, esports is now the biggest sport in the country. And if you look at the interest levels are from across the country, right? So if you look at the big streamers, they're from the big competitive players, they're from Bandra, they're also from small villages in Punjab to small villages in Kerala, right? So they're coming from different places. And if you travel around the country and ask young people what they're watching or who their favorite athlete is, it's going to be likely that they take an esports person's name, which is insane. Like, I would have never expected that 3 years back, but that's been the change in mindset that's happened. And I think that's something that we have to understand even as a nation, right? As a nation looking for role models. We've not sent, like I was saying earlier, we have not sent a team to the FIFA World Cup, but we sent a team to FIFA E and did it quite well. And they've beaten bigger nations like Korea, etc., which have much bigger infrastructure, right? So I think that there is, from a community point of view, from a content point of view, we've made a huge effort to build communities in local languages. We've made huge effort to build communities of these particular mobile games, which don't really exist in other platforms. And so today, if you see the largest number of streamers and the largest number of viewers on our platform. So for example, FIFA Eve streamed both on Loco as well as YouTube. We got 4x the number of viewership on Loco. And that's because the community is sitting there. They're basically enjoying it together, right? And I think that's something that the larger platforms is not making enough moves, right? YouTube shut down YouTube Gaming sometime back and merged it, right? It's not a priority for any of these platforms. And I think some of the other guys are much smaller than us in India, whether you talk about Facebook Gaming or even Twitch, right? I mean, they're probably about a tenth of our size in India today. So when you look at the kind of engagement levels, the NPS levels, we're seeing much better than any of those platforms. And that's primarily coming from the fact that we engage creators in a very deep manner. We've had a long-standing relationship with them through thick and thin. We're the only platform amongst all these that you mentioned who's even held a tournament, right? And we've done tournaments all the way from something which, where the prize money is 15,000 rupees, all the way to something which is crores of prize money being held in a proper studio with Jatin Sapru from Star Sports, anchoring the event, right? So we've created that journey for people where if you're in a small town or a college or you're a novice, you can just start off playing these games for fun, watching your streamers, and then at some point you graduate into saying that, look, I have a lot of skill, and I can actually win these things. And we're seeing skill appear and emerge in different sports or different categories, right? Whether it's a first-person shooter or a game like FIFA, even the NBA, which is tied up with us, they've seen more viewership than any other platform, which is why they've continued to stay with us, for their 2K league. And in fact, they're thinking of new ways of developing that further. And then what we're doing on top of that is we think about fans all the time. So whether you look at simple product features, right? If you want to check score on YouTube, you can't for a tournament. Like we built an in-stream scoreboard, for example. Or if you want to play with a particular streamer, we built a one-click way of playing with streamers, right? So these are simple things that big platforms don't have. Like Twitch didn't even have rewind till last year, right? So how do you find your favorite moment in a game if if it disappears on you, right? So I think from a community point of view, those are desktop focused apps primarily. You're seeing YouTube go more and more towards shorter than short form, which has kind of become like another TikTok. And Facebook's kind of receded in India in the last year in terms of its gaming efforts. So we are providing a very unique value, and we will continue to provide it. And to your question on we talked about Web3, we've announced Loco Legends, which is a collectibles project that we're building on top of the Loco platform, right? That allows users, it really transforms the fan experience. To give you a sense, if you are a sports fan today, you can go ahead and buy a Liverpool shirt. Or an Indian cricket team shirt. And if tomorrow Liverpool shuts down or India stops playing cricket, I still have my shirt, right? I didn't lose it. But today, if a publisher decides that I'm going to shut the game, you're screwed. You're basically lost all the effort that you put in. Every single good that you owned in the game is gone. On the Loco side, if you want to show support to a certain streamer, if you want to show that you have the eye to catch and figure out who the best streamers are or best best players are early in the day. You can do that now and express that through these NFT projects, right? So I think it really transforms and turbocharges the fan experience in a way that couldn't be done before, and it also brings down, the way we approach the ecosystem. It really brings down the barriers. So tomorrow, like Deependra mentioned some cricket Web3 projects in India. There's no reason that we cannot actually cooperate with them, and some of our fans show up there for their games, right? So this is almost like thinking about, hey, I'm a cricket fan, but I'm also a football fan. So I'm just getting viewers from here to there, or players from here to there, and they can do the same to our games. So this is not a zero-sum game, and I think the Web3 model of ownership changes that, because when you have the old model, it was all about putting a ring fencing your platform and then charging money or charging advertisers for it. With this new model, it can change, and it's through initiatives like this. Like none of these other guys that you mentioned have anywhere close to kind of the product that we've built on the Web3 side. So I think for us, we are focused on the need of the mobile gamer, and that has served us extremely well. And I think we're very early in terms of the journey. I think you're going to see in India a platform which is at least 100 million plus MAU that comes to fruition, whether it's us or somebody else. Hopefully it'll be us. But it's also important because it's one of the few places where India can provide leadership to the world. So there are other places where mobile gaming is becoming big, and again, those users are requesting us to come to those markets, and
Right.
that is really gratifying to see as an Indian founder, which is that people are saying, hey, we've heard about you, why don't you guys come over? I mean, FIFA reached out to us, we didn't reach out to
Right.
them, right? So that is, for me, like simple small signs of the fact that we have a lot to contribute, and it can really put India on the map as far as gaming is concerned.
Okay. And we wish you all the success. Paavan, to you next. Winzo has made the choice to be a multilingual platform. What's the importance of, say, not just being a gaming platform, but also being a platform which is available to people in vernacular languages?
Yeah, I think we are, to be very honest, the idea was never really to have a gaming platform. The idea was to have an interactive platform, right? I mean, today, if you see, and by the way, our models are also such that we don't really make games in-house. We are not a game studio. We just have built a platform where people, whenever they get bored or they want to get that kick of winning or that instant gratification, that's that kick in their mind, they just launch our app, spend I would say about 10 odd minutes, and they do that 5-6 times in a day, right? So cumulatively they spend about 45 50 60 minutes, and there are like a couple of million users who do that on a daily basis now, and we have their wallets also linked to us, so whatever they like, whatever they want to do, at a tap of a button they can just make the payments. Now it's really upon us what we want to do with Winzo, right? That's what Winzo is. We have, of course, added games, so people can just tap of a button. We've partnered with 40 plus developers, added 100 plus games, which people can actually go ahead and play. But then we've also done stuff like, for example, there is Winzo Store, where we are actually selling third-party in-game assets. And I mean, Google is charging 30% commission. We don't charge that much commission from the game studios and game developers. They can, at a tap of a button, buy the same BGMI in-app currencies or any other games in-app currencies at a discounted rate to Google. We also have a bunch of other such services, and that's really what we want to be, right? We want to be that place where, as a person's entertainment choices evolve, because entertainment is something which is extremely evolutionary, right? A couple of years back, people used to say social media is how people like to entertain. Today, social gaming, the boundaries are getting so blurred. We're talking about metaverse already. There are a lot of people who are already building those metaverses. So I think at the end of the day, Winzo has to be that place where people just log in and they have a lot of exciting stuff. Whatever exciting stuff at that point of time will be most relevant for them. This is their profile, demographics, everything should be available to them. And Winzo, through their technology and data, will be able to integrate all those different kinds of entertainments. I mean, tomorrow we can totally go ahead and probably integrate with a game streaming platform and offer some kind of a game streaming as well to these users, right? And when we like to become that agnostic, right? When we like to become that universal, that basic for a user, then it has to be extremely personalized, right? And if I mean, people when they're getting entertained, they would like to read, they would like the platform to be talking to them in their own language. When they have to make certain kind of payments, then everything should be very easily understood. That's why vernacular is very critical, right? People in India, when we want to monetize them, it's very critical for them to be able to read and understand. And it's not just about vernacular is not just about probably translating certain scripts and from English to other languages. It's really about the mindset, right? It's about the tone in which you speak, the way you build your product as well. For it's very easy. Most of the games, if you will see, most of the product, most of the applications that you will see, it's either white or black, right? Those are the two colors in which most of the UX and UI are done. And we've done like millions of such experiments, right? A/B experiments. And if you see today's Windows look and feel is extremely colorful. There's so many hues, so many gradients. For a tier 1 audience, like you or I, we probably feel, okay, this is not a product that's ours. Are people okay with this? Why is it not neat enough? But then people from tier 2, tier 5 cities, they love it. The moment we make any changes, they're like, hey, no, this is not something that, please bring the old Windows back. That feels like home. Because we lack colors in our real lives. There are no movie halls, there are no playgrounds, there are no places for me to hang out really. So I want an extremely immersive experience within Windows application. Please don't take that away. So that is what we want to be, right? We want to be very, very close to our customers. We already have roughly 100 million registered users on Windows. We want to take this number to roughly 300 million over next 2.5 to 3 years. So roughly 30 crore users we want to touch. And to do that, we would probably have to enter each and every household and have to, भारत में जा रहे हैं तो हर इंसान से उसी तरह बात करनी पड़ेगी जिस तरह से उसको समझ में आए, right? So that is the whole idea with which we are building Winzo.
I wanted to just add, Miloni, this a data point for you. I wanted to just add a data point for you is we recently had the BGMI Masters on Loco, and we had it in multiple languages. And the Hindi stream had 250,000 to 300,000 people watching concurrently, which means when you go to the viewership, that's like, double-digit million viewership. But English had only like 500,000 people watching at the same time, whereas Tamil had 5,000, Telugu had 3,000. So it gives you a sense, and we're still growing in those regions. It gives you a sense of the difference in demand and how people want to be entertained. And I think Paavan said something very important. It's not just the translation; it's the feeling, right? And one of the things that we did during that time is we also introduced the concept of a watch party, where you can watch the game with someone else that you like watching with, right? So let's say if I like how Deependra, watches a certain stream, I'll watch with him because I want his reaction and want to interact with him. And that usually comes from the twang you use, the kind of slang you use, the words you're using, the expressions, and it's very local, right? And it's so interesting that some of the streams that we have, for example, from Kerala right now, the Malayalam streams, they're playing actually PC games, which a lot of their users don't have. But that's being looked as now as an aspirational thing, and they're enjoying hanging out with these guys and enjoy them playing these games. So it's actually every state in India has a different, we are a different economic stratas, we're a different thought processes, and so you're seeing that in we are the cultural zeitgeist for the gaming world, right? So we are able to see that in the chat, right? And you will see people just sometimes just want to hang out. Like they'll be watching a random stream, and if I always say the real action is in the chat. So they'll ask each other, "Oh, where are you from? Okay, what is happening? How was the rain yesterday?" Like that has nothing to do with the guys like playing some game, right? But it's the place where they're hanging out. And I think over there, having the comfort that there are people from your region and your who understand your cultural context, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, this is all really fascinating. Really building a community, bringing people to come closer, having this kind of an immersive experience. No wonder that this sector is poised to really lead. My last question is to you, Deependra. It's far away from this culture and immersive experience, but I really want to focus on the fact that experts and stakeholders have called for laying down clear definition and compliance norms when it comes to KYC, data management, and taxation to ensure that India really emerges as a leader in the online gaming industry. What are the tech solutions, in this backdrop that you see game startups adopt to achieve scale?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of services which actually make the life of a game developer very easy. So KYC, data security, ensuring that the data of the players resides within the territory, all of it is automated. So AWS has services to protect your game assets and infrastructure, which reduce the security risk, as well as provide a cloud public pipeline that allows you to monitor and protect your game IP. So customers can now build their games very easily with security in mind with the global infrastructure that we have. So low latency, high throughput data moving across the global network and our data centers is automatically encrypted before it leaves the secure facilities. And we have services like AWS Shield, which manage distributed denial of attack services. We have services like Amazon Guard Duty, which is a threat detection service that monitors for malicious activity and prevents anomalous behavior to protect both your account as well as your customers. Then there are analytics services, which are used to personalize the experience for players so that your gameplay journey is very unique and very suited to your skills and interests. So for example, Paavan was mentioning that, they actually limit, how much can you play, how much can you spend, how much can you withdraw, how much can you deposit. So all of these services, analytics services, actually make your life very easy and automate those tasks. Companies can track operational resources and optimize marketing tactics based on data-driven analysis to maximize cost and success. So some of these features which have been launched and which many of our customers have adopted have actually simplified the journey of building and growing your game. And what you mentioned, KYC, security, data integrity, I think those are the basis on which a games company operates. So those services are provided through analytics, through security, through the region that we have in India. So they are all taken care of.
All right. With that, it's a wrap on this session. Thank you so very much, all of you, for joining me and, giving me your inputs and giving us a sense of where game tech is headed. And of course, it looks like it is a sector that is only going to grow. Anirudh Pandita, founder Loco, Paavan Nanda, co-founder Winzo, and Deependra Singh of AWS. Thank you so very much for your thoughts and for your time today.
Thank you so much.